Welcome to the show. It's the Frisky podcast, and we have none other than Willy P on the show, co-host. I know Willy P's got a lot of legend behind him from the Predictors newsletter. People always wondering who is Willy P. Well, we figured why not bring him to the surface, let everyone see him. So, Willy, how we doing, bud?
Doing great. It's nice to be out of the sewers. I've kind of had to lay low, kind of build up the allure a little bit. Just trying to get
Dude,
people
you're like Batman or like a Ninja Turtle, man. I don't know.
dude.
You're in the shadows.
All I'm trying to do is make people money. I'm tired of seeing Vegas build all these new massive stadiums for these teams they keep buying. It's time to get the money back into people's hands, and I had to come out of the darkness to do it, if you know what I mean.
Dude, I love it. Just having the pockets overflowing with cash, you're bringing it to them. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to get into mostly NBA, but, Will, you do a little bit of everything, man, and I love that we're starting to show with you on it because, I mean, you're into the football, EPL and soccer, NBA, I mean, even some hockey, golf, things like that. So, we'll touch all the subjects throughout the weeks, but start a little bit of NBA, I think, what's in season here.
We're getting right into the thick of the NBA season. After the All-Star break, we got less than 20 games left after last night. Had a crazy, crazy night last night. Funny thing is before I met you, Tyler, I didn't know that you were a big Boston Celtics
I knew this
guy.
was coming.
Big Boston sports guy, right? And he loves to chirp me about the Denver Broncos, which is clearly fair. But now that my Denver Nuggets are kind of the powerhouse of the NBA, I love that I get to throw in a couple jabs here and there. And the Nuggets were home dogs last night at home, a little plus 110, crazy. I saw that waking up and was rattling my brain all day of how this could have happened since the Nuggets gave the Celtics their first home loss of the year earlier in January, and now we're here and they did it again. So they won last night big. It was kind of an up and down game, but the Nuggets continue to show why they have the best starting five in the league and why they are a team to be reckoned with, especially with the Boston Celtics. I don't think the Celtics want to see them in a 7-game series, but I hope we do get to see that 7-game series at the end of the year and get to the NBA Finals.
I agree, man. I'd actually love to see the series. Everyone's bad. The Celtics, obviously huge win over the Warriors, and then took that 1 point loss over the cat or to the Cavs, and people started freaking out. I saw a lot of articles out there and videos. People like, oh man, Celtics taking this huge loss, breaking the streak. I'm like, I don't know why everyone's freaking out, but then we take another loss, to the Nuggets, and now you're like, okay, let's just get back on track. But to be fair. You know, I do talk some shit about the Broncos, and that's only because when I was with the Patriots, they beat us to go win the go into Super Bowl 50 and win. So I have a little bit of spite against them. But with that being said, I didn't have too much room to talk this year because my Pats were definitely not at the top over
I
there.
mean,
So it's been hard for both of us.
it's been the NFL trends for our teams recently have been not one to brag about, which has not been super fun. But we all know what that guy named TB12 did for a long time down there in Foxborough. So I know the last time you saw us in a big game, we beat you, but we'll see what happens. The way that my Broncos are trending right now, I don't feel good. The Pats, I hope will. If he's around, take Jane Daniels. A lot of people are saying he's going to go too, and you and I talked about this earlier in the week that you think they might bring in some veteran quarterbacks in that locker room and take Marvin
Yeah,
Harrison.
that's what we're hearing. That's what we're hearing. Some of the other podcasts, some of the other shows, they're talking. I don't know if you saw Schefter's talking about bringing in Flacco. Maybe even bringing back some older players that we used to have, and then getting someone like a Marvin Harrison Jr. coming in. Really building this team out. We've let some guys go. We got some money to spend. New guy in charge over there with Mayo, who he was a linebacker when I
Mm-hmm.
was an AT there, and that he's a smart dude. I know some people wanted Vrabel there, but I'm pumped for Mayo. I think he'll do a good job, and I'm excited to see where he leads the team.
I'm excited to see that as well, just because I'm curious to see how much of Bill Belichick's Patriot way is going to bleed through into his own scheme. And I kind of hope it doesn't, mainly offensively. I've always had a great defense, and obviously, like you said, he played linebacker for him, so he's definitely a more defensive-minded coach. But I'm excited to see what that offense can do. I know Mac Jones has struggled. We'll see if they give him another chance. maybe he just needed a change of scenery in terms of scheme. Who knows? Maybe he's not the guy. Only time will tell.
Yeah.
But I am very excited with that signing, and I think it goes without notice that they did hire a guy that was in that organization for a long time, and I think it makes a lot of sense for Robert Kraft and that organization to do that. Vrabel is a great coach,
Yeah.
but all the stars aligned towards Gerard Mayo, and I was surprised that he was at the list. But once they did it, and you take a step back and think on it, it makes a lot of sense for sure.
Yeah, for sure. A little bit unproven, but
Mhm.
hey, that's okay.
Yeah,
We'll see how he does, and hopefully he can bring my Pats
it's
back to where we used to be. But
it's better
hey,
than it's
you know,
better than what the Dallas Cowboys are doing. I think who I forget who tweeted it, but right after they kept Mike McCarthy, they said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So at least you're not the Dallas Cowboys, because I don't know why they keep holding on to this coach and this quarterback and this system that doesn't work. But
dude, it is tough. It's because they keep getting 12 wins during the regular season, but then they blow it, and it's like, at what point does 12 wins not matter if you're not going deep into the playoffs at least, right? I mean,
I
I don't
don't.
know.
I That's a topic for another time, because I could talk about
Yeah.
Cowboys and why Jerry Jones should just sit back in his executive booth and keep his mouth shut. But we're here to talk NBA, so we'll come back to that, I'm sure, once the NFL season comes around the corner. But my God,
Oh, dude, when draft is starting to creep up and things like that, we'll start talking about some pro days.
oh,
We can get into a little bit about the combine maybe even next week. So,
oh,
oh yeah, we got some things to discuss there. But like you said, let's jump into the NBA, man. Give us the slate. Give us what are you looking at? What are your exciting games to watch? And what are your thoughts here?
we got a couple teams on some back to backs tonight, which makes it really interesting. We got the Cavs. My first game to look at tonight is the Cavs are going to Minnesota to play the Timberwolves. Like I said earlier, the Timberwolves had a big win against the Pacers last night, 2-point win. They're not playing with Karl Anthony Towns anymore, as he has that meniscus injury. And I heard this morning from Shams that he is gonna get surgery. I don't know a
Yeah.
lot about it, but he is sounding like they're gonna repair it, and then they're kind of waiting for a timetable. But I do really like the T Wolves here. Surprising that, because they're on a back to back and they're probably going to be tired. But Anthony Edwards is looking like a former number one overall pick in the NBA. He's going crazy right now, and I really like the T Wolves tonight, just straight up on the money line. They're plus odds as a home dog purely because of the back to back, but I'd take them on the money line all night. They look good. The Cavs are also riddled with injuries, and that does not, you know, plan well for in a big matchup like this tonight.
Oh yeah, man. You can check that out at the predictors.com. We got the NBA banged up scores
Yeah,
so you can see which teams are healthier than the others. But yeah, man, Cavs, like you said, riddled with injury.
riddled with injuries. So that's a big thing for me. That's why I like the T Wolves on the money line tonight. Next big game is Magic at the Knicks. Magic have severely overperformed this year. They have won games they shouldn't have. They're second in their division. They have I was looking at the odds earlier today to see who is leading the race to win their division, as you can bet on futures on that to win divisions as well as the conference as well as the finals and everything else. And the Magic are at an interesting spot here tonight, because the Knicks are, again, as well as the Cavs, very riddled with injury, mainly with their star point guard Jalen Brunson, who is listed as questionable. He has a right knee contusion that's kind of been bugging him. He didn't play on Tuesday because of it. And my big thing is I like the Magic here. Um, but if Jalen Brunson plays, it makes it a little difficult. So I'm going to stick with the Magic on the
Uh,
spread. But if Jalen Brunson plays, I'm definitely going to be puckered up a little bit for sure. It seems like it's tough because it's only 1:30 Mountain Time, and it's 12:30 your time in the Pacific, so it's still early, and players definitely, when they're listed as game time and questionable,
oh
they
yeah.
like to really push it right before the game, like 10 minutes before tip off. So we'll see, but I'm going to ride with the Magic. The Knicks, they've been up and down, and the Magic are on a 5-game win streak. This 5-game win streak does consist of mainly against the bottom teams in the league, so that does have some value. But the Magic are hot, and I'm gonna ride the hot hand tonight and have them get to 6 in a row for sure.
You think the hot hands bringing you the money, huh?
I love trends. That's a big trend. 5 in a row is a big trend. Six is a good
It
number, and I
is.
like it. Talk to me in a couple days if the Magic are still on this win streak. I might say I told you so, but I might also tell you it's time to fade them. But right now, we're hammering the hot hand Magic for sure. Next game, night game, Bucks at the Lakers. Really big game. Really big game, especially because the Bucks have had this pretty negative narrative around them ever since about the middle of the season, right before the All Star break, when they fired their head coach and then hired Doc Rivers. And a lot of people have been
Yeah.
questioning why Doc Rivers. This dude was commentating for NBA all the beginning of the season and not even doing that well at that. And now he's coming into one of the best franchises in the league with a top 3 to 5 player in the world in Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they started off pretty slow. I think they won 1 out of their first 6 games.
Yeah, dude, I remember that. That was a
Yeah,
tough. Everyone
and
was everyone was a little bit nervous there.
Milwaukee was getting ready to bring out the pitchforks and the torches.
Yeah.
Upset. They were like,
Well,
"Ooh."
that's what Milwaukee's got, dude. They got the
"Oh yeah,
Bucks. That's
no, I mean, and I get it, and especially after when you fire your coach, I think they were 30-13 or something. And it was just the math didn't make sense, and so
yeah.
but now the Bucks are good, and the big thing with the Lakers tonight, I like the Bucks purely because again, it's all injuries, and you got to go check out the Bucks scores because this is where I'm finding a lot of my trends and a lot of where I make my picks. Because yeah, you can take they can be a home favorite. Whoever the Lakers could be a home favorite tonight, which they're not because they have they have a lot of injury lists. Mainly, their 2 best players in Anthony Davis and LeBron James. LeBron was listed last game as questionable, and he went out and dropped a 30 piece. So it sounds like LeBron's just loves to get people riled up and make teams, kind of change their game plan.
It's
Other
the
things.
it's the Tom Brady shoulder questionable for week on
Oh,
every week for the whole season.
and LeBron's 39, about to be 40. He could sneeze and people would list him for a lower back injury just because they can. You know what I mean? So uh, again, I hate telling everyone that these are my picks and it's all dependent on who's injured, but I would take the Lakers tonight if LeBron and AD play, but I don't want to leave it to ifs. So we're going to go with the Bucks. The Bucks are a good team. They're a solid team. Giannis is listed as questionable. Regardless of if he doesn't play or not, the Bucks have a deep enough bench and a better rotation, in my opinion, than the Lakers, regardless of who's on the floor. And they have that dude that won the 3-point contest, Damian Lillard, and the All Star Game MVP. So that dude.
Dude, they got a squad, no doubt.
Oh yeah, well
No
they
doubt.
proved it. They proved it a couple nights ago when Giannis didn't play. Dame Lil had 41. So the Bucks can do it without Giannis. The question is, can the Lakers do it without LeBron and AD? So I'm going to ride with the Bucks on that one. We'll take them on the money line. And then our last big game that I like tonight is the Miami Heat at the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Oklahoma City Thunder, another team that has drastically overperformed this year. They're very young, as you probably know. They shipped away all of their good players a couple years ago and have an abundance of draft stock for the next, I think, 12 years or something along those lines. Something
Yeah.
ridiculous. Because of that, they're young, and why they've overperformed is solely because of their 1 point guard, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That guy is second in the MVP race. He should be. He's averaging 31 points a game on 55% shooting. The dude's ridiculous. I saw him play the Nuggets earlier this year in Denver, and he hit a a low baseline fade buzzer beater to crush us. And he a lot of announcers say it, but he plays at his own pace. He's in no rush. He knows exactly where he wants to be at all times, where he needs to go, what he needs to do. And because of that, the Thunder are an 8-point favorite tonight against Miami Heat. Miami played last night. They played a good game against the Mavericks on the road. They were up, gave up a big lead, blew it at the end, lost by 8, by 6, and the Mavericks actually ended up covering the spread, which was pretty remarkable because they were down 15 in the first half. Because of that, I don't like taking the Thunder on the spread. 8 points is a lot of points. The Thunder are very good at
Yeah.
home this year. I think they're 24-3 at home this year. They're solid at home. Because of that, though, Miami's gritty. They have the culture. Everybody loves Heat culture. They love Eric Spoelstra. They love Jimmy Butler. Love that culture. But I do like the Thunder tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if they blew them out, but I also think 8 points is a lot of points. So I'm I'm gonna go with the Heat on the spread at 8. Um, I wouldn't call that a lock of a lock, but I like the spread even though the Heat are a little.
It's a frisky pick, huh?
It's
You got yourself a frisky
definitely
pick there.
frisky. And getting into more, not more, we'll get to the frisky riskies later, but moving then into the MVPs, still talking about Shea. He's at plus 250 to win the MVP if you like future bets. And future bets are the definition of frisky. So I personally, I do really like Shea. He is my preseason MVP. And I've kind of ridden with that. Again, being a huge Nuggets fan, Nikola Jokic is leading the MVP race for, I think, the fourth year in a row again. I mean, dude's a monster. He's averaging freaking 26 points a game, 12 rebounds, and almost 10 assists. He nearly averages a triple double. He had his 20th triple double of the year last night against the Celtics. He's a monster. And he is the current favorite at minus 170. But SGA at plus 250 is screaming value. And the big thing with this is it is all going to depend on who wins that division. Whoever can win the Northwest Division in the Western Conference is gonna win MVP. And if it's the Denver Nuggets, it's going to be Jokic. He's going to have a 3-time MVP and just keep building up that trophy closet. And if it's the Thunder, it's going to be SGA because if you take SGA off that Thunder team, they are not a playoff team. They're a bottom 4 team in the league, in my opinion. He has carried that team all year. So we'll see. It's
Wow.
that's the division to watch.
Bold, bold statement.
It's well, and that's what's crazy because if you look, and I was looking earlier, if you look at the Northwest Division, the Nuggets are currently minus 115 to win the division. They started out the year to win that division at minus 300. That's crazy. If anybody would
Yeah.
have told me at the beginning of the season that the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to give the Nuggets a run for their money to win their division, I would tell you to check into a rehab because you're probably addicted to drugs. Now it seems very pliable, especially even with Karl Anthony Towns being out for the T Wolves. It's crazy to say that, I mean, he put up what 50 something earlier this year and put up another 50, or no, I think he put up 70 something earlier this year and then put up 50 in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Cat's having a great year, but it shows Vegas knows, right? And it shows that with the T-Wolves being plus 410 now without Karl Anthony Towns to win that division, it's pretty hard to not argue that it's going to be the Thunder or the Nuggets. So we'll see. And it is funny to me as well because the T-Wolves having such bad odds, they have a one game lead in the division and in the Western Conference as a whole, even without Karl Anthony Towns. So you never know. The NBA is a circus of emotions and unpredicting events for sure. So I don't know, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's actually a good segue here into some medical talk here, man, with Karl Anthony Towns. So this is interesting because obviously left knee surgery, they're saying now for his meniscus. They're calling it a meniscus repair. So, if they were just calling it a arthroscopy or a meniscus clean out or something like that, 4-6 weeks, something like
Hmm.
that, fine timeline, totally get it, right? Quick clean out, get in, get out, do some rehab, get back on the court. To call it a meniscus repair and say that he's going to be back for sometime in the beginning of those, the beginning of, or I guess it'd be the end of April, right? Somewhere in that time
Hmm.
frame. Because I think that the playoffs start, April 20th,
Hmm.
after the play-in stuff, play-in tournament. So for him to come back in 6-8 weeks after a repair is an optimistic
Yeah.
timeline, to say the least, man. I don't know if I am fully on board with that. Most repair. I mean, first of all, it must be in a very specific spot,
Hmm.
and it must be very small because 6-8 weeks for a meniscus repair to get to jump back in there like that, and especially at what he does,
Hmm.
is bang around down there and jump and all that stuff. I mean, that's tough. So I think it's optimistic, to be honest. I think it'll be pushed a little bit more, than they're saying, but uh, perhaps not. I mean, maybe he comes back and he's killing it, or maybe they get in there and it is a little bit more of a debridement, as they say, or clean out than it is, a big repair or something. So that's going to be very interesting to see. With that said, I know you're talking a lot about Anthony Edwards, and he obviously stepped up huge last night. I think he even tweaked his ankle a little bit, but came back, dropped 44, if I'm
Mhm.
correct. Um, you know, played hard. How long can he keep something like that up, playing that hard and keeping the team on his back? That's where I get a little bit, or I think that's going to be a little bit tough for them. And like you said, it comes down maybe to Thunder and the Nuggets, because it's going to be very hard for him to put the team on his back like that night in, night out. I mean, they're going to need some other players to step up, right? Maybe it's Rudy Gobert, maybe it's McDaniels, maybe it's Nas Reed. One of them, needs to come in and really help with Cat out. I think it's they're going to have to play as a team. And I know that's, easy to say, but, and obvious almost, but, they haven't had to really do that with Cats. So I think that's going to be very tough, to hold that out, and really compete without him for that long,
Well,
especially when they get into more of the playoff games.
well, now my big question of that is if you do decide to do that, you bring him back after 8 weeks at most, after doing this repair or sit. Let's just go worst case scenario. They have to repair it, right? And you're saying that that short of a timeline back is very optimistic. Do you? My question then is as the Thunder, or excuse me, as the Timberwolves look at their season and how well they've done and how well they performed, and they've been in the top three of the Western Conference all season with Karl Anthony Towns, and now it's only been one game without him now, and they won, whatever. Is it worth it, in your medical opinion, to bring him back and try and make that playoff push? Because in my mind, if my top two, either best player or second best player on my roster, has that significant of a knee injury, especially in basketball, where I know knees are very crucial. It's due to the impact and the jumping, just the nature of the game, right? Would it be worth it to bring him back and risk him potentially hurting it even more to maybe not even make a playoff run? Or do you sit him down and say, hey, we're going to kind of do what the Sixers have done since they sat Joel Embiid for his injury? And, I mean, you're still going to make the playoffs, but maybe adjust your expectations a little bit and realize that you're probably not going to
Yeah.
make a run.
Yeah, I think that's something that they will do. I think they'll sit down, talk to him, see how he's feeling.
Mhm.
I think they'll play that by ear based on, number one, his symptoms and how he feels, and then two, what the medical staff, what the athletic trainers, what the docs, what the strength and conditioning staff is all saying about how he's moving, and how everything looks in the repair wise, and how the team's playing. Right? I mean, that's what the coaches have to do. I mean, if they're playing as a team, they're playing well. Maybe you can afford
Yeah.
to sit him a little bit longer, give him some more time to come back. If they look like crap and you really want him, and you really need him out there, then maybe it's a little bit more of a push to get him there, with still hopefully obviously being safe, for him, and being careful. I mean, there was a lot of talk in the NBA about load management this year, right? I mean, that was a big thing, especially preseason, all of
Mhm.
that. And these guys, they get paid a lot of money to get out there, but you know, at what expense sometimes. And I think that's a big piece of it. And I think definitely something those guys obviously want to be on the court. They want to be with their team. They want to be competing, so you got to ask him how he feels. And I think that's really what it'll come down to. And how he looks strength wise, right? Because if he's healed, but he doesn't have the strength in his quads and hamstrings and, muscles that have to stabilize on top of it, then he's not ready to come back. And that's
Yeah.
just
And
what it is.
and that is tough just because I'm sure he's, the moment that it feels probably, this is all hypothetical, but I'm sure the moment it feels 75% good for him, he's a competitor, he's a professional athlete, he's gonna be pretty gung ho, I'm sure, to be like, let's get out there, let's try and go make a run. And like you said, it's going to be, this honestly is the biggest test on Minnesota's organization as a whole, to see, like you said, what the coaches are saying, what the doctors are saying, what strength and conditioning, because if, of course, he's most likely, and they are probably well aware that he's going to come back and be like, if he can play, he's going to be like, let's do it. So we'll see what, like you said, we'll see how the team's performing and what this organization does, because big step. They could
Right.
royally screw this up in more ways than one if they make one wrong decision, and that's a lot of sports. But that's what I like the Sixers have done. The Sixers have been they've dropped. I think they're fifth in the East now after starting the year in the top three. But they still have a good enough roster to hang around even without Joel Embiid, and we'll see if Minnesota does. I don't know if they do, but I'm
Yeah.
curious to see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure. And while we're on the medical topic, we got the same thing happening with the
Yeah.
Warriors. I mean, Steph, right ankle. I mean, we all know his history with right ankles, or with that right ankle, I should say. Back in 18, he sprained it and then tweaked it and then tweaked it. And, he's got an issue with that ankle. It's obviously held up pretty well since. I think he had another ankle sprain in 22, but he's obviously the driving force of that team. I don't think anyone can argue that fact. Um, but what do you do with him, right? You have a couple of easier games coming up, right? I think against the Spurs, they have a couple of games coming up against the Spurs, and so I think you definitely want to rest him some, give him that time. They'll probably get some imaging on that ankle today. Head coach didn't really come out and say too much after the game. So, they'll get some imaging, I'm sure, and some more evaluation and testing on that ankle today, see how he feels. It's probably going to be more sore today than it was yesterday after the game, as they usually are. But I think, you got to rest him at least a week or two. Give him that time, especially if you have some of those games that you can win maybe without him, and then bring him back when you get into a little bit of a tougher schedule there. I think they got the Lakers coming up after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Mavs and then the Lakers, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe you give him a rest and then let him come back. But I know they talked to a couple of his teammates, and they kind of said the same thing, man. It's going to be tough without him out there, but they got players on that team, and someone's got to step up.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the current standings right now, and they're sitting right at ninth, and they're obviously not gonna. I don't think they'll find their way out of the play-in tournament unless they win out and a lot of other things happen in this short span of games that we have left to wrap up the season. But yeah, I mean, it's another thing. It's the same conversation that we've been having for the past 5 minutes. Where is your team at when he comes back, and what are they looking like? I know Klay Thompson has not had the season that everyone was hoping he would have, and he's really shown his age as well as Draymond Green a little bit. But we'll see. I mean, I don't. I would be bummed to see the Warriors really rush him back, given that he is easily the best player on that team and will continue to be as long as he is on that team. So hopefully the Warriors make a good decision, as well as the T Wolves, to keep their star players healthy in the long run. Because
Yeah.
again, I don't. If the Warriors somehow make it out of the play-in tournament and get to the playoffs and make a run, that would be one of the greatest playoff runs of all time, because they have not been the team of late. The dynasty has definitely crumbled a little bit, and they're definitely on the back half of it. But as we've seen too this year, Steph Curry is still Steph Curry when he wants to be, and he can hit any 3-point shot that he damn well pleases. So if you wanna rush him back to make a couple more threes and maybe get the 8 seed, cool. But I wouldn't suggest it. But we'll see. I don't know, that franchise is.
No, I think you got to give him the time.
Yeah, you got it.
Let
You got
him let him
it. So
recover.
and they've dealt, and like you said earlier, I mean, I think he's had ankle injuries his whole career, in terms of, like, it's always. I think I remember him coming into the league and way back, and he was not a durable player by any means, and has definitely worked his way into that. So hopefully he can figure it out. I don't know. Injuries are always a tough thing to hear, and especially this late in the season when the playoff picture is really starting to take shape, and we're getting ready for it.
Health matters,
It
man. You gotta the
yes,
healthier your team, the easier it is. I mean, no doubt about that. So,
100%.
well, you've already you know really given people some good money here. Will, obviously in the beginning, but let's do a little frisky, risky picks, dude. Here, what are the quote unquote locks that you got for the viewers, and what are the riskier side that maybe a little bit more money coming their way if they hit?
My first,
What do you got
I
for us?
got five. So I did. I did. I have five pretty lock plays that I think are the numbers were just screaming. You have
Sure
to take
hits.
these. You have to take these. Get your tool belt out. Get your hammer out. We're going to work. First one, the Orlando Magic and the Knicks total points over is 205. 205. That's crazy. Those teams both average over 110 this year. The under since the All Star break has been on fire for NBA bettors. Absolutely on fire. I think they're 20 plus games clear of being at 500 or something like that. That being said, 205 is a crazy number to bet the under on. And again, like I said, they both average over 110 a game. I'm hammering over 205. That is a crazy number. I don't know what Vegas knows, but I know what I know. And that's a crazy line. If you're not taking the over in that game, regardless of the injuries that the Knicks have, it's going to be they're at home. They got to defend their home court. They got to put up points against a young Magic team that is, again, like I said earlier, been grossly overplaying their expectations this year, and they're going to continue to do it. The Magic are in a playoff spot, and they got to put up points to beat a team on the road, and they're going to do it tonight. So I would hammer 205. I feel very good about that. I'd put my house on it, even though I don't own a house. So that's how confident I am in it. Next one, Isaac Okoro, guard for the Cleveland Cavaliers. His three line is set at 1.5. I'm taking the over on that. He's hit that in his last 7 out of 10 games. He all he's got to do is hit 2 threes. Nothing crazy. We're not looking at 5. We're not looking at 3. 2 threes. He's hit that in 70% of his games in the last 10. I love that number. Give me Isaac Okoro over 1.5 3-pointers. Next, we're going to go if this is tough because I don't. Again, we talked about it earlier. I believe he will play. It's the Tom Brady injury man of the NBA. I'm taking LeBron over 25.5. Dude's been going nuclear these past 10 games.
Okay.
Just nuclear. So I'm taking him over.
I just love that we just talked about injuries so much, and then it's like,
Dude,
screw his injury. Fuck that. We're going with him over
dude,
25.
dude, I know. And I just think he's a little bit of a fibber, you know? So, and it's a big game tonight. They need him tonight. And if
I don't
he
think you're
plays,
alone there. I think a lot of people see that.
dude, I just don't. It's a big game tonight. I do think he's going to play. From what I've seen, again, it's early in the day, but and if he doesn't, I'll give you your money back. Not actually, but you know, I do feel good about LeBron
Just
over
kidding.
points. The numbers are screaming him to go over again. 25.5 is a low number. I think he's averaging close to 30 in the last 10 games, which is just crazy. So 26 points is easily doable for the King. The next one, the young Jokic of the NBA, Alfred Sengun on the Houston Rockets. This dude's crazy. He had his first career triple double last night. Dude's a menace. I don't know what the deal is with Eastern Europe and producing these 7-foot centers that can play all positions of the floor, but he's that guy. I would not be surprised in the next couple of years to see him in the MVP race because he is a stud. And last night in his triple double, he went over.
You heard it here
Dude,
first.
I
Willy
swear to
P,
God, I swear to God,
MVP couple
Sengun,
of
dude, it's
years.
crazy. There's if you look at a tier of NBA centers, it's like this is a meme. So this isn't an original thought, but it's too good not to share. If you know Pokemon, Charizard's Jokic, Charmeleon, the second of all of Charmander is Domantas Sabonis of the Kings, and then little Charmander, the young boy, is Sengun, and he could easily evolve into either one of those players. That being said, I'm taking his over points, 23 again. Who do they play tonight? They play someone not good, and he's gonna. I'm sorry for the unprofessionality. They play. Oh yeah,
Jeez, man. Come prepared next
excuse
time.
me. That's right. They play the Portland Trailblazers in Portland tonight. They're like an 8-point favorite after a back to back, and Sangoon is the reason why. He's going to show up again. Portland doesn't have anybody inside to defend against him. He's going to have a field day. And my last pick, Fred VanVleet over 2.5 threes for the Houston Rockets. He's a great player. He hits a lot of shots. He's a great 3-point shooter. He's hit that number in his last 6 out of 10. I know it's not as pretty sounding as 70%, but 60% is still over 50, and 50 is still good. So I like numbers. Those numbers sound good to me. Give me Fred VanVleet over 2.5 threes as my quote unquote locks of the day. If you want to make some money, you want to sweat, you had a long day at work, long week at work, you're like, man, I got to blow some steam off. What's the best way to do it? Sit down, crack open a beer, and sweat.
Yell at the
Yell at
television.
your wife's, telling you to come get dinner. You're like, no, honey, I'm sweating. Sorry. These are your picks. First one, Anthony Edwards over 29.5. He went crazy last night. He's on a back to back. He's gonna be tired. We've talked about it already a lot today. It's plus 100, so it's not crazy value, but you are doubling your money. And he's hit it in his last 6 out of 10. I feel really good about it as a friskier play. And just as a precursor, these Frisky plays are at least plus 100 or better. So that's why I like to call them Frisky, is just because, they're definitely much more of a sweat and not a lock, but I wouldn't be saying them if I didn't feel at least somewhat good about him. You know what I mean? Maybe give it a little sprinkle on top, something light. But yeah, Anthony Edwards, 30 points. Feel good about that tonight. Next one,
All right.
Jay Gilgis Alexander over points, 30 and a half. His He has been hovering around 30 to 34 points a night for his line every game all year, and it has hit at about up to this point at about 50% exactly. So that's why it's a risky play for me. I've taken it a lot this year. It's done me well. It's done me bad. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander has a big game tonight at home. I think he's going to put up the points. He's kind of slowed down his production in the last 10, mainly probably just because chemistry issues. And also, this dude's been carrying this team all year. So, fatigue is definitely a real thing. That being said, I think he's due to have another big night again tonight. And over 30 and a half doesn't seem too egregious to me by any means. My next one is Duncan Robinson, over 3.5 threes. The trends say he should not hit this. The trends say he's hit this in about 4 out of his last 10. Last night he went berserk.
You're a trend guy, dude.
Yeah, I know Duncan's sweet. I love Duncan, but last night he looked really good against the Mavs. He hit 4 threes. The night before he hit 3. The night before he hit 3. And then about a week ago he was going cold. I think 5 games ago he went 0 for 6. So he's definitely up and down, and it's been interesting as that team has had their suspensions with Jimmy Butler and all that. They're obviously all back now, but that was kind of when he was fluctuating in his numbers because he was having to play more minutes and honestly take a lot more shots than he's accustomed to, being a spot-up shooter. But I do like Duncan Robinson over 3.5 threes last night. He looked really good last night against the Mavericks when I was watching him. He looks much more confident and much more in rhythm now that those key players like Jimmy Butler are back in that rotation. So I'd take Duncan Robinson over 3.5 threes. I think it was about plus 102 when I looked at it last. So you want to get it as soon as you can to get it at plus money, but it's going to be a pretty tight to even money coming into the night. And I would be surprised if it was.
That might be more risky than Frisky did.
I don't know. We'll see. Well, lines move, but I'm only calling it risky because the numbers scream he's going to go under, but my gut tells me over. So I'm going to go with my gut. But anyway, and then my final risky play is a future play. It's for the Denver Nuggets to win the NBA Finals at plus 420. Number plus 420 screams Denver, as we all know what they like to do in that city, as it's legal. But also, plus 420 is crazy to me. They're the defending NBA champions. They are one of the best top 3 teams in the NBA. They arguably, not even arguably, they have the best starting 5 in the NBA. And you're still giving them that big a value? Screams hammer it to me. And the crazy thing is the Boston Celtics are only plus 210 as well. And that just shows you from Vegas' standpoint, they feel very good about the Celtics, but like we talked about earlier, they've shown some weaknesses as of late, especially last night.
They have shown some weaknesses.
And I'm
Um,
confident to say that I don't think any NBA team wants to see the Denver Nuggets in the 7-game series. I don't think they do. I think they're the toughest team to beat in 7 games. You give them 7 games, they're going to beat you every time. But we'll see. I don't know.
every time. Whoa, I can't wait to tell you told you so when I don't hammer plus
That's
420.
fine. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. And when I'm in Cabo at my luxury resort, my winnings, then we'll make another phone call, won't we? But
That's right.
yeah, I mean, you never know, man. It's fun. That's why futures are the most fun. And speaking of another future, that why I brought up the golf tournament right when we first started is Shane Lowry has been playing out of his mind this year. He is leading the tournament, but the dude that has really sparked my eye, he's I think it was 2019, that guy from Japan, Hideki Matsuyama. Dude's had a resurgence this year. He won Riviera. He
Yeah, he took a little bit of I'm in a golf pool every year. He took a little bit of a hiatus for a while. Everyone that picked him, he just couldn't even. God, it was
That was
terrible.
terrible. And it looks like he still has the signature pause, which is sweet, and it looks good. And he is currently Shane Lowry is tied for first at 7 under with Russell Henley and Brian Harmon, of all people. He has come out of the woodworks after winning the British Open, which is great to see. But Matsuyama is one stroke off going into moving day. And the way he's been playing, I would potentially sprinkle a little money on him to win the Arnold Palmer. And if you really want to get really frisky, we're a couple weeks away. But I would, I'm going to say right now, I think Hideki Matsuyama is going to win his second Masters this year.
Oh, second Masters. Okay.
He's
All
played
right.
that course. He's beat that course. I really thought it was going to be Victor Hovland this year after he won the FedEx Cup, and I was like, man, this kid is playing out of his mind. But he's kind of had a weird year.
Hovland, he's a little bit of choker. Tends to choke at the
Well,
big
well,
moments.
and you would think that after he finished last year's season the way he did, he would bring that momentum into this year, and he has not. So it's weird to see, but
Yeah.
and I hope I don't. I'm sure they haven't even released lines for it yet, but sure, everyone is going to want to take Tiger Woods to make the cut and do whatever and do this and that. He's not going to.
That's a feel good bet, man. That's all that
I
is.
know. I know.
That is not a
And
by the numbers bet.
my buddy bet. He's a big golf guy, and he took Tiger to make top 20 at Riviera this year, and of course he got cut and he withdrew because of back spasms. And I was like,
Yeah, his back
he's
spasms.
like,
Yeah.
dude, he won the Masters a couple years ago. I was like, yeah, but that was 5 years ago, and how many back surgeries has he had? He's like, they were to make him better. I'm like, no, but anyway, it's just.
They were to make him better.
Like, I love Tiger Woods. He's the GOAT. There's no question. We're not talking about that, but it's time to put the Tiger Woods bets to bed. I think that's just wasting your money, and we don't.
It's greatest of all time, dude. Greatest of all time, but eventually everybody
It catches up, man.
starts to fade
Yeah,
out.
look at Klay Thompson this year. That dude. That dude doesn't look like he knows how to shoot a three at all anymore, and it's not his fault.
Hey, I give Klay Thompson credit though. He's taking it in stride. He's
Oh
like,
no,
listen, I'm
for
not
sure.
where I'm supposed to be. I'll come off the bench. I'll do whatever I have
Mhm.
to, and just to help the team. He understands it.
No, and I'm not saying he doesn't, but it's part of life. It's part of sports, and that's why it's crazy that LeBron's doing what LeBron's doing, man. It's God. So we'll see what happens, but yeah.
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, you got your frisky, you got your risky picks. Plus, Willie P's throwing in some extra cash cows in there in the beginning of our podcast. So if you don't come back making money, I don't know how else to help you here. Next week, we may talk a little bit of March
Oh yeah.
Madness,
Oh yeah.
perhaps.
All March Madness. Not all,
Oh
but
yeah, some
that
favorites,
time of year, baby.
maybe to win. A couple different things
You
there.
said look at
Maybe
Iowa
we can.
State. Iowa State. I'm telling you right now, people. They're a
You should
dark horse.
everyone can just pass right over Purdue since they blow it every year, um, even though they're favorites every year.
This year might be a little
So
different. We'll
I
see.
don't know.
We'll see. I hope not.
We'll see. But after what they did to me last year,
Oh,
I just can't bring
I
myself
don't
to do
think
it.
any person that
Um,
fills out a bracket likes to pick that team, and it's oh man. Anyway,
it's brutal. As a Connecticut native, though, the boys trying to go back to back. I mean, I don't mind that.
yeah, they're an absolute wagon. I would run through 18 brick walls for Dan Hurley and not stop. I love that dude. I love that team. They're a wagon. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's so you don't go back to back." Well, they might go to back Final Fours because they are good. They embarrassed Marquette.
Yeah.
Embarrassed Marquette. Embarrassed them a couple weeks ago. I mean, my gosh. So
Dude, the team is a powerhouse right now. So we'll see if they can. Hey, March Madness is a whole different beast, though. It's not the regular season. It's a lot more pressure one and done. So I'm excited to talk that. We'll probably talk a little bit more NFL news and definitely some more NBA news. So we'll have a great show next week. Appreciate you watching. Meet us back and join our newsletter at thepredictors.com for more info, more Willie P picks, and more sports news, NFL, NBA, and everything else that you could want, and especially injury, man. Health matters. We've talked about it part of our show here. I don't know, a
hammer.
third of the show we're talking
Hammer.
about injury. So
If more
yeah,
people
make sure you get that injury
if
news.
more people could just use our bus score, it would be incredible how much better they'd be at sports, fantasy, betting, anything, just talking about it. Just look at it.
Dude,
Everything you need to know is there.
health.
Everything you need to know.
Oh yeah, yeah, and we're bringing out even more for the NBA. We got bus scores by team, and for the NFL, we got it by team, we got it by player, we got it by position. So definitely check us out. Check out the articles, check out everything else, and we'll meet you back here next week.
Awesome.